November 2022, the government issued a directive that in effect would allow the importation of 10 million bags of GMO maize. And secondly, against this background, there was a cabinet directive on the lifting of a 10-year ban on the importation of maize. Whereas my colleague has focused largely on the question of its impact or effect on the farmers in Rift Valley, I would like to cast this debate in a much larger perspective, namely, first, in three lights. One, I want to underpin it in terms of the authority of this House, and Madam Speaker, members, under Article 94(5). The provisions there are very clear, and they state that no person has the authority to make any provision that has the force of law other than Parliament. So against this debate, we must always remember that we also have the Statutory Instruments Act and a committee which we have set in place in form of the Committee on Delegated Legislation. It is my position that under Article 94(5) and the Statutory Instruments Act, a decision as serious as one lifting the ban on GMO ought to have the seal of approval of this House. The second point that I want to underpin this debate is Article 118 of the Constitution as read together with Article 1. The power that we exercise in this House, we exercise an indirect power donated by the people of Kenya under Article 1. Under Article 1, the sovereign power can be exercised directly or indirectly. When they exercise it directly, they may exercise it by way of a plebiscite in a referendum, by way of a vote in an election, by way of being engaged in public participation. The lifting of this ban has been done against the background of a 10-year lift, and that lift, together with the report of a task force that was put in place to inquire into the health, safety, and other impacts of GMO introduction into this country, that report has never found its way into this House. That report has never been subjected to the committee that oversees the questions of delegated legislations and regulations in this House, Madam Speaker. Secondly, or thirdly, the other point that I wish to underscore is a statement that was made by the Cabinet Secretary for Trade. The Cabinet Secretary for Trade appeared to be suggesting that we could as well import GMO because there are 1,000 ways in which people could die in this country. So introducing another form of death appears to him to be something that is so casual. And the point that I want to ask that this House considers is this, that when a Minister of Trade makes such a statement, can we ask that minister that we can actually then as well be saying that it is better to carry out or to engage in sex without a condom because there are 1,000 other ways in which you could die? I want to suggest that we donate the Honorable Moses Kuria to Koinange Street, where we can keep him for 1 year to have sex for free without condoms, because there are 10,000, 1,000 other ways in which you could die as a Kenyan citizen. So this is the casual manner in which this matter of GMO has been taken. But now, Madam Speaker, let me take this House through a little history on GMO and how it evolved. Madam Speaker, GMO began in 1982 when the Federal Drug and Administration approved the first GMO product that was developed through genetic engineering. Madam Speaker, this was used as a test to try and develop a DNA bacteria for the treatment of diabetes. Following this was in 1986 when FDA then again developed a coordinated framework for regulation of biotechnology. This policy described how US FDA and US EPA, which is the Environmental Protection Agency, and the Department of Agriculture would together regulate GMO. So the question is, even as we look back to where the US has come, a technology that is 1982. I believe I was in Form 1 then. This is very recent technology. You come to 1992. It is only as recent as this that the FDA in the US put in place a policy that food from GMO plants could meet the same standards and requirements as those of indigenous. It was a step-by-step thing in the US, which in itself right now has very strong consumer protection law that separates and delineates at the market. This is GMO, this is organic. Then you come now to 1992. And then in 1992, where these standards were now allowed, you find that in 1992, the first GMO food product that was allowed to be consumed in the name of Flava and Sava tomato in 1994. This is barely 28 years ago. So it is surprising that the CEO of a multinational company by the name of Bill Gates would come to this country and mislead the Kenyan citizens that he has been consuming GMO food for as long as he has been alive. Bill Gates, if my check was correct, Bill Gates was born in 1955. GMO, the first introduction of GMO tomato was in 1994. So I think even as we engage the people of this country on the question as to whether we can consume GMO, it is important that the facts are properly put on the table. And these are the facts on how to achieve the risk aspects of GMO itself. From the research that I have done, Madam Speaker, GMO poses the potential for increased cases of cancer, cases of infertility, danger to the environment, can pose danger to human and animal life and the ecosystem, and can drastically reduce or eliminate plant diversity. Once introduced, Madam Speaker, it is virtually impossible to stop the transfer where natural crops are grown due to the wind insect. There has also been the question of when you have a 2-acre farm where you want to plant indigenous seeds or hybrid seed or crossbreeds, and you have a neighbor who wants to do GMO, there is absolutely no non-scientific means by which you can be able to prevent the impact of what would happen through pollination, through insect transfer, through wind and other natural ways in which you can be able to prevent your indigenous plants and seeds from being affected by GMO. Madam Speaker, even as we adopt or are attempting to adopt GMO, it is important that this House knows that there are countries, the very same Western countries, that have run away from GMO. In Europe, Germany, France, Austria, Greece, Hungary, Netherlands, Lithuania, Luxembourg, etc. have rejected GMO. In the Americas, Venezuela, Ecuador, Peru, Venezuela have all rejected the question of GMO. In Africa, Algeria and Madagascar and many more. Madam Speaker, as I conclude, I would like to plead with this House that before we allow anybody or any entity to undermine the authority of this House, we must remember that under Article 95, we represent the people and we solve the problems that affect the people. This is one such problem that the people of Kenya are looking into this House to solve, and I want to recommend as I close that a select committee of the Agriculture Committee and the Committee of Health be put in place to be able to sit together with their counterparts in the Senate and undertake thorough public participation to ask experts and stakeholders and the people of Kenya whether indeed they want to resolve or revert to GMO. In the meantime, the lifting of that ban should be ceased, and all the instruments, including the report of the 10-year ban task force, should be brought to this House through the Committee of Delegated Legislation. I thank you, Madam Speaker.
Honorable Leader of